Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depends obviously when you're picking up the video. Welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host, Owen. We are talking time. We are talking patience. That's what it means. Temps et patience, which means time and patience in French. Obviously, Clement's native language. Not Flemish, apparently. Anyway, we've got some more news as well about the coaching staff and formation of Rangers coaching staff. More news coming out today as regards that. Now, one of the things that really did come out of the interview that Philippe Clement gave to Rangers TV was the fact that he talked about needing time to get the team sorted, time for the team to adapt to his way of playing, time for the team to adapt to his style, and time for the players to get used to changing positions and playing, I think, a very fluid formation. And that certainly is the modern way, isn't it? Like I mentioned on previous videos, if you look at the top teams around Europe, the Real Madrids, the Manchester Cities, the Barcelonas, the Liverpools, the Arsenals of this world, they play with very fluid systems. It may be written down on paper as a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 or a 4-1-4-1, but it's very much a situation that it doesn't stay like that through the game. The formation changes depending on the situation, depending on how they attack, depending on how they have to defend certain situations. And I think Philippe Clement, it's clear he wants to have that flexibility of formation and flexibility of shape in the way that he plays when he puts a Rangers team out on the park. And it'll be certainly interesting to see what effect, if any, he's managed to have in this limited time that he's worked with the players this week, which is going to be tough to get across any changes. It's going to take time and we need patience. But, one of the questions that you've got to ask is, and will he get that time? Will he get that patience? Rangers, as a fan group, we are notoriously impatient with our players, with our managers, with everyone, aren't we? What was it? That quote, I think, was that Richard Goff once said, at most clubs, you're as good as your last game. At Rangers, you're as good as your last pass. As Barry Ferguson once said, you've got 10 minutes now, go impress us. And I think, that is the situation as it presents itself. So Philippe Clement, I think we'll be aware of that and be aware of what he needs to do in terms of turning this team round. But it's whether he gets the time to actually do that. And I'm hoping that the fans and the board show him a little bit of time, a little bit of patience to turn this situation around. Yes, in the short term, there are certain non-negotiables. One, that they push Celtic as hard as they can this season. Number two, that they win the League Cup. That is a non-negotiable now, given the fact that, there's no Celtic left in that competition and Rangers are the strongest team left in that final four. Add to that, obviously, aspirations to win a Scottish Cup and to do as well as possible in the Europa League. They are what we are looking at. And Philippe Clement himself said that, didn't he, when he talked about, the fact that we're still in four competitions and competing to the best of the team's abilities and his abilities in those four competitions. So, look, he needs time, he needs patience, he needs a bit of just, I don't know, you look at the problem we've got is, and I think what we need to all realise as a fan base is that Michael Beale has set this team back somewhere in the region of 18 to 24 months. We are, at a situation where the team we have currently assembled, if you look at it on paper, and if you look at it actually on the field, forget paper for a minute, is nowhere near as good as last year's team, which was pretty bad itself. So, look, the team's certainly suffered a regression since 55, a major regression, and players that we've brought in to replace departing players have not been as good. Ryan Kent has not been replaced, and I know by the end of his time at Rangers, Ryan was failing abysmally. Alfredo Morelos has been replaced by Cyril Dessers, and Dessers is a pale imitation of Alfredo. Antonio Cholak's been brought in, was allowed to leave, and obviously he hasn't been properly replaced either. Well, obviously, we're very hopeful that Danilo, once fit, can be a replacement of sorts for those two. Danilo has certainly shown more in the limited amount of time that he's had than Dessers has done in all the opportunities that he's had. There's a concern there. Look, there is a concern there. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, Scotty Arfield, another one who could come off the bench and make an impact. Jose Cifuentes, you could say, was a kind of replacement for him. Hasn't done it. And there's players coming to the ends of their deals as well that we need to look at. And hopefully Philippe Clement will have his own views on Borna Barisic and John, my second touch's a tackle at Lundstrom. So, look, it is a situation where he will need to look at and evaluate, and he needs time. And maybe initially, we might scrap to some wins and it may not look particularly great or look like particularly it's changed a lot, but it's going to take him time to get his style across and get the team to play as he wishes to play. And I think we need, as a fan group and as a fan base, to kind of see that and kind of understand that this is not a quick fix. It is not going to be a quick fix. That Philippe and Stefan, who are our current head coach and assistant head coach, will need time to put their philosophies, their ways of playing, their techniques, their style onto this team and get them to change. I think one thing that we need to look at, and hopefully I think Philippe will look at, is the fact that we do need to build firmer foundations. We have the goalkeeper, certainly, in Jack Butland, who is an outstanding talent, but we don't have an outstanding defense. We need to reform that defense. We need a new right back. We need a new centre half. We need a new left back. We do need to build a firm foundation. And if you look at all the great Rangers teams of the past, they were founded on great defenses. You talk about players that we've had in the past: Gary Stevens, Terry Butcher, Lorenzo Amoruso, Arthur Newman, Richard Goff. Outstanding talents at the back there. So look, we do need to have time to build that up, and that is something that the manager needs time and patience on that aspect. Now, there's been a few bits and pieces more news as regards his backroom coaching staff. Not concrete appointments yet, but certainly discussions around who will remain and who will, how they will sort of compose that coaching staff. Now, the first piece of news that stood out today, reading in a number of media sources, was that Thomas Buffel will not be joining Philippe Clement at Rangers. He will stay in his role with the Belgian FA. So no Thomas Buffel. Also, former assistants to Philippe Clement, who are Jonas Ivans and Johan van Rumst, also will not be coming to Glasgow to assist Philippe Clement either. They were alongside Philippe at Bruges and Monaco, and apparently will not be coming to join up with him in Glasgow. There are apparently discussions set to take place with Stephen Davis, Alex Ray, and Stephen Smith and Coach Gilmore as well, as to what their futures hold at the club. One of the management team that will be staying will be Colin Stewart, who will be remaining as goalkeeping coach for the club as Philippe Clement looks to compose his coaching staff. According to the latest reports that are out today, though, the Ibrox board and the Ibrox hierarchy are seeking to put a Ibrox man into the coaching staff, a Rangers man onto Philippe Clement's coaching staff, someone who understands the club, someone who has a background with the club. Now, this is a double-edged sword for me. I think, there are obviously benefits to this. Benefit number one being that he understands traditions, they understand the standards, they understand how the club works. But to what degree is that a good thing? You look back across the last few appointments that we've made, and Gio Van Bronckhorst was a Rangers man. He played for the club. He understood the club. Michael Beale was a coach here in 55. Stephen Davis is a Rangers man. But to what degree do we need a fresh pair of eyes, fresh sets of eyes? To what degree do we need to kind of look back at the old philosophy of having Rangers men, so-called Rangers men, in the dressing room and say that doesn't work? And it hasn't worked. And since 2012, it hasn't worked. Annie McCoist, again, yes, he brought us out of the dark doldrums back up to the promised land, helped on that journey, didn't he? But, as did Mark Warburton and Davy Weir. But at the end of the day, for me, I would rather see Philippe Clement bring in a completely fresh set of coaches from outside who will look at everything with a clear, fresh pair of eyes, not with Rangers eyes, not with royal blue, white and red eyes, but with eyes that are eyes that will, critically evaluate what they see, that will critically evaluate the team and the ways of working, and critically evaluate the structure of the club in terms of the playing side, and actually say, well, look, you've tried this for the last 12 years. It hasn't worked. It doesn't work. You've won 2 trophies of note in that time. This is not the way forward. The way forward is to do this differently, to move on towards a more modern structure, to move on towards a more modern ethos. And I think, for me, it's a mistake to go and try and hire someone who is purely there because they used to play for Rangers. I'm certainly not against hiring the best people possible. And yes, if they did play for Rangers, great. But on the whole, for me, I would rather Philippe Clement completely assembles his staff from his own backgrounds and from scratch. And that includes every position: fitness coaches, first team coach, reserve coaches, goalkeeping coaches. He built his own structure. And if he's going to be truly given the time and patience he needs to put into play his style, his way of doing things, give him the options there to actually build his coaching staff. Don't go above him or underneath him and appoint people that are just there because they used to be playing for Rangers or they used to have some involvement with the club. I think one thing that kind of annoys me to as an extent as a Rangers fan is the fact that we do seem to have this kind of opinion that if they haven't had some involvement with Rangers in the past, then they're not good enough, and that we have this kind of, and it's not true of everyone. I know that it's only true of certain fans, but I don't think that's the way forward. I genuinely think that has not worked, and it just, you look at it and you think, we need a new philosophy. We need a new style if we're going to compete and overtake that lot from across the city and become the premier team here in Glasgow and in Scotland again, as well as obviously compete on the European stage. Well, guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. You might disagree with me, and that's fine if you do. Just obviously be constructive in that disagreement. Thanks for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation. And as always, guys, there's two things I really need you to do for me on the way out. Number one is smash the like, and number two is remember always, we are the people.